As the conflict in the Middle East enters a far more dangerous stage, the crisis is no longer confined to one region, one battlefield, or even one set of enemies. What began as a direct military confrontation involving Iran, Israel, and the United States is now expanding into something far more serious. A geopolitical shockwave with the power to disrupt global trade, energy markets, and regional stability all at once. Missile strikes, drone attacks, naval deployments, and emergency military responses are now shaping the map of this war in real time. The danger is no longer limited to the skies over the Gulf or the land borders of the region. It is spreading across strategic sea lanes, touching Europe's security concerns, and forcing major powers to react before the situation moves even further out of control. At the center of this crisis is one of the most important waterways on Earth, the Strait of Hormuz. This narrow maritime corridor carries a huge portion of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas exports. Every day, energy shipments worth enormous economic value pass through these waters. That is why any threat to Hormuz is never just a regional story. It instantly becomes a global one. As tensions escalated, Iran continued its retaliatory campaign, using a combination of drones, ballistic missiles, and indirect pressure across the region. Security analysts believe the purpose of this strategy is not only to punish its enemies militarily, but also to create fear in the shipping lanes that keep global energy markets alive. Even the possibility of disruption in Hormuz is enough to trigger panic in oil markets, raise insurance premiums, and force shipping companies to reconsider their routes. And that is exactly what began to happen. Commercial traffic through the strait started to slow. Tankers hesitated. Cargo movements became more cautious. Shipping companies watched the security picture change by the hour. The fear was simple. A single successful strike on a civilian energy vessel could transform a tense military crisis into a full-scale economic emergency. In response, the United States moved quickly to reinforce its military posture in and around the Gulf. Naval assets, air surveillance systems, and destroyers were positioned to protect maritime traffic and deter further escalation. Washington made it clear that freedom of navigation would remain a priority. The message was strategic as well as political. The United States would not allow one of the world's most critical trade arteries to be held hostage by regional escalation. But the most surprising development did not come from Washington. It came from Europe. As reports emerged of drone-related threats near key military locations tied to Western operations in Cyprus, alarm began to spread far beyond the immediate battlefield. Cyprus is not just another island in the Mediterranean. It occupies a highly strategic position, hosting important military infrastructure and serving as a vital node for surveillance, logistics, and regional coordination. That changed the equation. For European leaders, this was no longer just a distant Middle Eastern war. The strategic consequences were beginning to creep toward Europe's own security perimeter. And among all European powers, France responded in the most dramatic way. President Emmanuel Macron announced the urgent deployment of the nuclear-powered aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle toward the Mediterranean. This was not a symbolic move. It was a direct statement of military intent. The deployment signaled that France was prepared to move beyond diplomatic concern and into active strategic positioning. The Charles de Gaulle is one of the most powerful military assets in Europe. As the continent's only operational nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, it represents a major concentration of air power, surveillance capability, and defensive reach. On board are Rafale fighter jets, command and control systems, airborne early warning assets, and escort vessels equipped with advanced radar and missile defense systems. In practical terms, this means France is not merely sending a warship, it is sending a mobile military fortress capable of influencing the balance of power across a wide operational zone. And that matters because the Mediterranean is no longer insulated from this crisis. Military planners understand that once instability moves from the Gulf toward the Eastern Mediterranean, the strategic picture becomes far more dangerous. European shipping routes, regional bases, alliance coordination, and energy security all begin to overlap in a single theater. That is why France's intervention could become one of the defining turning points in this confrontation. For years, Europe often played a secondary role in Middle Eastern security crises, speaking loudly, coordinating diplomatically, but rarely placing heavy military assets at the heart of the confrontation. This time is different. Paris is signaling that Europe is no longer willing to remain only a concerned observer, while the security environment around it deteriorates. At the same time, Iran continues to operate through what military experts call an asymmetric strategy. This is important to understand. Iran does not need total conventional superiority to create serious problems for its adversaries. Instead, it relies on methods designed to raise the cost of confrontation for stronger opponents. Cheap drones, mobile launchers, dispersed missile units, underground storage sites, and repeated low-cost attacks can force even advanced militaries to spend enormous resources on defense. This is where the imbalance becomes so dangerous. A relatively inexpensive drone may cost only a tiny fraction of the interceptor missile used to shoot it down. When those drones are launched in large numbers, the objective is not always accuracy, it is saturation. The attacker tries to overwhelm defensive systems, exhaust missile inventories, create confusion, and force constant readiness across multiple fronts. That means the battlefield is not measured only by who has the bigger weapons, it is also measured by who can sustain pressure longer. And Iran understands that very well. Even if major naval powers dominate the open sea, that does not eliminate the drone and missile threat. Mobile launch systems can relocate, underground depots can conceal reserves, short warning times reduce reaction windows, and the constant possibility of surprise means military forces must remain on alert at all times. Meanwhile, the economic cost of all this is already beginning to grow. Energy markets react quickly to instability, especially when it involves Hormuz. Oil traders do not wait for total closure before adjusting prices. They respond to risk itself. Natural gas markets are equally sensitive because Gulf exporters are deeply connected to Asian and European energy demand. A prolonged maritime security crisis would affect shipping schedules, raise transportation costs, and possibly tighten supply across multiple sectors. The consequences go beyond fuel. Industrial production, fertilizer supply, shipping insurance, container logistics, and food systems can all be affected when energy routes face disruption. This is why even limited military escalation in the Gulf can create pressure far beyond the battlefield. A missile fired in one region can influence prices, contracts, and supply chains on the other side of the world. That is why maritime security has suddenly become the centerpiece of this conflict. The United States has indicated that escorted transit operations may be necessary if threats to commercial vessels continue. In simple terms, this means warships may directly guide oil tankers and cargo ships through dangerous waters, while air and radar systems monitor for missile or drone launches. It is a defensive strategy, but also a highly demanding one. Escort operations consume ships, aircraft, manpower, and constant coordination. And this is precisely why France's carrier deployment matters so much. By moving the Charles de Gaulle strike group into the Mediterranean, France adds another layer to the Western military network. It helps distribute the burden. It expands surveillance coverage. It increases fighter availability. And perhaps most importantly, it sends a message that the burden of managing escalation will not fall on the United States alone. Some analysts believe this could help stabilize the situation by strengthening deterrence. Others warn that every new military deployment also introduces new risk. More ships, more aircraft, more defensive patrols, and more overlapping zones of operation can reduce vulnerability, but they can also increase the danger of miscalculation. That is the fragile reality now taking shape. This is no longer a crisis defined by a single front. It is a conflict with several layers unfolding at once. Military pressure in the Gulf, strategic signaling in the Mediterranean, economic anxiety in global markets, and political recalculations in European capitals. And beneath all of this lies one critical question: can this crisis still be contained? If the answer is yes, then heavy military deployments, naval escorts, and coordinated deterrence may help hold the line long enough for diplomacy to regain space. But if the answer is no, then what we are seeing now may be only the opening phase of a much broader regional confrontation. One that threatens not only Middle Eastern stability, but also the security architecture connecting Europe, the Gulf, and the wider global economy. The coming days will be crucial. As carrier groups move into position, as missile defense systems remain on alert, and as shipping lanes stay under intense scrutiny, the world is watching a dangerous balance form between deterrence and escalation. Will international military pressure succeed in protecting vital trade routes and preventing wider war? Or are these deployments the first signs of an even larger geopolitical collision now taking shape? What happens next may determine far more than the future of one region. It may shape the direction of global energy security, international trade, and the strategic balance between some of the world's most powerful states. What do you think happens next?